Okay, so I just wanted to make a short video about Bruce Willis and the news that was announced today. It's been speculated for quite a while now that he'd been battling some kind of dementia over the past few years. And of course, today his daughter, Rumer Willis, came out and confirmed that he's suffering from essentially a degenerative condition that's going to impact his ability to use language, speech. And of course, with that in mind, he's made the decision to step away from acting. Um, Obviously, for the past few years, he's been in so many of these direct to VOD, direct to DVD movies, and a lot of it's like bottom of the barrel stuff, Z grade stuff. Obviously, people like Red Letter Media have made videos recently about it, and you even it's stuff where you can clearly see they've had him for maybe 1 or 2 days on set, and then they've just spread the footage that they had with him around as best they could to make it look as though he's the star of the movie when really maybe you've got about 10, maybe 15 minutes of footage. And obviously it's clear that Bruce Willis has no wish to be there. He's not invested at all in these roles. So obviously, you kind of look at what's been announced today, and then obviously you're putting two and two together, and you're kind of thinking, well, clearly this is a guy whose time is limited. So clearly he's just been taking everything that's been offered to him and building up as much money as he has been able to, so that his family's going to be all set. I mean, as if all other weird thing is, you'd think the career that Bruce Willis has had for decades, you'd think money would not be an issue for him and his family would be taken care of. But again, we don't know what we don't know. But clearly, what's been announced today puts Bruce Willis's career over the past decade, the things he's been doing, in a completely different light. Because obviously this is no new thing. Obviously, it's been going on for some time by the looks of things, and it's got to the point where they can't hide it anymore. And it's terrible, terribly unfortunate. Um, because I'll hold my hands up. I've ragged on Bruce Willis a lot over the past few years. Obviously, the Z grade stuff. But even in more, even in legitimate movies, you can see where he's been thrown in it. And obviously, one of the most infamous examples was Cop Out that he made with Kevin Smith. You have Tracy Morgan, who's the co-lead, and he's putting his heart and soul into it, trying to carry the whole thing. And then obviously you just have Bruce Willis just phoning it in. It's even something like Red, and obviously Red 2, we had the whole situation with that interview where things broke down. Well, not broke down, but you could see Bruce Willis wasn't even making an effort to be, to engage with the interviewer. But obviously, you got to believe the issues that he's been dealing with were going on even then. And it's incredibly unfortunate. I mean, fair enough. You have guys who are difficult to work with, and you have guys that don't like doing interviews. So obviously, there's always that. But then you have the idea of mental health issues compounding that. Um, but I wanted to make this video because obviously I feel really bad for Bruce Willis, because he's one of those actors that when he's on and when he's invested, he's phenomenal. Um, I mean, everyone talks about Die Hard, and what I will say is there are, though, if you go back to that first movie, you could not criticize his work ethic for that movie, because he was working like a Trojan because he was filming Moonlighting during the day and he was filming Die Hard on the night. Man, he was working like you wouldn't believe. So you could this is a guy that at one point in time the magic was there. He was into it. He was invested, and even promoting the first Die Hard movie. There's clips online of when he appeared on Oprah, promoting the movie, and he was happy to be there. He had the energy. He was talking about how great Alan Rickman was, and it was just the excitement and the enthusiasm was there. So this is a guy, obviously, at one point in time, yeah, he was the man. And one of the finest pieces of acting, that scene where he's in the bathroom picking the glass out of his feet, and he's on the radio to Reginald VelJohnson, and then obviously you have the line where obviously you say, I got a real bad feeling. When all this is over, you got to find my wife. Don't ask me no how. By then you'll know how. And and obviously this is where he starts. The fear starts creeping in. It's starting to sink in. There's a chance that I'm not going to get out of this alive, and you can see him start to break. And then he has the line, she's heard me say I love her 1,000 times, but she's never heard me say I was sorry. And that's what I want you to tell her. Tell her John said he was sorry. And he starts breaking down, and you're like, Bruce Willis, man, you are phenomenal. And again, obviously, the original three Die Hard films, they're all great. And the effort that Bruce was putting into them, undeniable. And then obviously the other shining moments, of course, with, everyone talks about Pulp Fiction as well, working with Tarantino, the Gold Watch segment of the movie, him and Ving Rhames, absolutely phenomenal. And the scene where he has the meltdown in the motel room when his girlfriend forgot to pick up the gold watch, you're like, the gear he goes into, he just goes full belt. And it's like, yeah, this is a guy who's invested. This is a guy who's given 110%. And again, one of those examples is, yeah, he's dialed in, he's into it. And then over there's, so many other people, so many people love The Fifth Element, and again, bringing his A game. I got that one recently, Tears of the Sun, with him and Monica Bellucci, and from what I understand, that was a difficult shoot, and I think, yeah, him and director Antoine Fuqua didn't get along, and you might say, okay, so an example of Bruce being maybe a bit difficult, but you look at the finished product, and Bruce Willis does a damn good job in that movie. And then another, obviously, Sin City is another big one with Robert Rodriguez, and again, he's into it, playing that like noir detective. It really works. He does a good job there. And then continuing with Robert Rodriguez, when he showed up in Planet Terror, obviously he's only in it for 5-10 minutes, but again, he's into it. He's trying, man. And most recently, one of the last, you might say, legitimate roles he had before, obviously he kind of went more and more down the route of the VOD stuff, Glass. Obviously, we had Unbreakable in the early 2000s, and then he comes back all these years later to reprise his role in Glass. And it was one of those, we didn't, at this point, you don't know quite what you're going to get with Bruce Willis. Are we going to get him into it, or are we going to get, quote, this is a phrase I've used, quote unquote, paycheck Bruce Willis? But man, he's great in Glass. He's dialed in, he's into it, and maybe you can attribute this to, directors that he knows he can't mess about, and he can't half-arse it with, he can't half-arse it with Tarantino, he can't half-arse it with John McTiernan, or Robert Rodriguez, or M. Night Shyamalan. Obviously he worked with M. Night on Unbreakable before this, and on Sixth Sense, of course. But yeah, so maybe that has a lot to do with it. But he was great in Glass. He was so good. And then another one that I love is when he was in Expendables 2. He was great. Obviously, only supporting role. But he was into it. He was having fun. Him and Arnie, the sequence where they get in the car together and they're driving through the airport. Yeah, he was great in the scene at the beginning where he shows up in the plane and intimidates Stallone. And it's like, holy Moses, Bruce Willis has been he's legitimately intimidating Stallone here, and he steals the scene. So you're like, okay, so Bruce Willis still has the magic there, but obviously it's a question of, is he invested? And again, as we say, might have to do with the people he's working with, the project that he's working with, and then of course if he's got had all these health issues, that's going to be another factor that if he's battling that, I cannot, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it must be for him. But ultimately, obviously, he's clearly making the right decision, and he's made his money. And life's too short to be struggling. He just needs to enjoy the rest of his life, and he's got his beautiful wife there. I mean, Jesus, you talk about a guy who's winning at life. You have all those years married to Demi Moore, and then you know you go through a divorce, and it could go one way, but clearly he's gone from strength to strength, and he's, from what I understand, he's a devoted father, so as a family man, I don't think you can criticize him. But yeah, I mean, 67, I think, so he doesn't want to be doing this anymore. Just again, he's made his money, he's worked hard, and yeah, it's time for him to just enjoy what's left. So this is basically to apologize for being so harsh on him, and also to say thank you for all the awesome stuff he's done. Again, Die Hard with a Vengeance. I love that movie. And again, it wouldn't be the same without him. The way him and Sam Jackson are in Die Hard 3, it's great. But anyway, that wraps this up. Again, please feel free to share your thoughts on the. It's terribly unfortunate news, but again, him stepping away and retiring, it's for the best. We don't want him to. You don't want to see guys like that. Like, obviously, I'm so glad that Sean Connery stepped away from when he did, because he's one of those guys. You don't want to see him decline and deteriorate. So there's a lot to be said for not hurting your legacy and going out, now the time's right. But anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble. Thank you for indulging me. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.